Temperance isn't peace, it's power. Temperance is the mastery of not reacting, the quiet art of choosing before moving. It's one of the four unshakable pillars: wisdom, justice, courage, and this. Temperance is self-control in the fire, moderation in the noise, a calm that doesn't come from comfort, but from restraint. It's knowing your edge and never letting your chaos cross it. Not weakness, not stillness, but a balance that holds, even when everything else slips. They say, stay calm, but they never tell you how. This is how. What if calm was a weapon? Most people chase calm like a cure, but what if it was the edge? Not a shield, but a blade, sharpened in silence, drawn only when the storm hits. Because when others lose it, the Stoic doesn't. When the world yells, he slows down. Not to run, but to strike, deliberately. So this isn't about feeling better, it's about becoming unshakable. Stay. There are 10 weapons you've forgotten, each forged in fire, each waiting to be picked up again. The first one you already hold, the duality of control. There's a line. On one side, power, on the other, illusion. Epictetus called it the dichotomy of control, a quiet law, unbreakable, what's in your hands and what never was. The weak man crosses that line every day, chasing storms he can't hold, trying to bend fate, begging outcomes to obey him. But the Stoic? He stands behind the line, not because he's afraid, but because he's free. He sharpens his aim, draws the string, releases. Then he lets go. Not of effort, of attachment. Because results don't belong to him, only the shot does. You don't own the wind, only the pull of your own fingers. This is what peace is made of. Not getting what you want, but knowing what's yours to shape and what's not. And once you know that, nothing can move you. The art of acceptance. The river doesn't stop for you. It doesn't care what you planned, what you hoped, what you feared. It just flows. And the more you fight it, the more you drown. Marcus Aurelius didn't beg the current to change. He watched it. He understood it. Accept everything, he wrote, even what comes different than expected. Not as surrender, but as alignment. The Stoic doesn't resist reality. He rides it, like a ship adjusting its sails, not cursing the storm. To accept is to be invincible. Because nothing catches you off guard when you've already let go of the need for control. Pain shows up, let it in. It will leave. Joy fades, wave goodbye. Both are travelers, not tenants. The Stoic walks through the fire, not hoping it won't burn, but knowing it will pass. And that's enough. Acceptance isn't weakness, it's the highest strength. To bow and still not break. The art of acceptance. The river doesn't stop for you. It doesn't slow down when you're tired. It doesn't turn when you beg it to. It just flows. And the more you fight it, the more it breaks you. You scream, but the current doesn't listen. You plan, but the current doesn't ask. That's life. And Marcus Aurelius knew it. He didn't demand the sky to clear. He didn't curse the rain. He just stood there, still, watching. And wrote, accept everything that happens, even what comes different than expected. Because the Stoic doesn't wrestle with reality. He doesn't argue with fate. He doesn't beg the world to kneel. He adjusts, he watches, he aligns, like a blade gliding with the grain of the wood, not against it. Acceptance isn't giving up, it's waking up. It's realizing the universe doesn't care what you wanted. It doesn't owe you clarity or fairness or a second chance, but it gave you this. Right now, this breath, this moment. The weak want certainty. The Stoic chooses clarity. One destroys you when life shifts, the other bends and stays standing. When people change, when outcomes fail, when the plan collapses, he doesn't panic, he doesn't plead, he moves. Because nothing outside him is allowed to own his peace. The ship sails because it follows the wind, not because it fights it. And those who fight life, they drown in expectation, but those who flow, they reach shores they never saw coming. So when things fall apart, don't cling, don't control, just breathe and let go. That's not weakness, that's mastery. Cravings are chains. A man owned by his desires is never free. He could have gold, applause, power, but if he needs them, he's already in chains. Seneca saw it early. He lived among emperors but walked like a monk. He knew the hunger for more doesn't end with getting, it ends with burning. Desire whispers like a friend, but it drags like a leash. The Stoic doesn't starve himself, but he doesn't feed the beast either. He chooses what to want. He masters what to chase, because the more you need, the weaker you become. You'll lie for it, break for it, beg for it, and call it ambition. But it's addiction, and craving is the fastest way to lose your center. Look around, the ones who are loudest, who need to be seen, who collect everything they can touch. They're not calm, they're just covering the noise inside. But the Stoic, he walks with less, speaks less, needs less, and somehow he has more. Because moderation isn't lack, it's liberation. When you stop needing so much from the world, you finally return to yourself. And there, in that quiet place where no one is watching, no one is clapping, that's where peace starts. So strip it all back. The luxury, the craving, the ache to be validated. Strip it all down to the bare truth. You already have what you need, and everything else is just noise trying to own you. Silence over reaction. They speak, you burn, they accuse, you flinch, they mock, you swing back, and just like that, they win. Because the loudest one doesn't have the power, the one who stays still does. The Stoic doesn't bite every bait, doesn't answer every noise, doesn't bleed on cue. He watches, he lets the chaos dance around him, but his center doesn't move. Silence isn't weakness, it's calculation, it's knowing when to speak, and when to let fools echo into emptiness. Every time you react without pause, you give them your frame, your energy, your edge. They don't even have to break you, you hand it over. But when you go quiet, they squirm, they guess, they spiral. That's power. Not the kind that crushes, the kind that doesn't need to. In a world addicted to instant response, silence is rebellion. Someone says something cruel, let them. You don't owe them a performance, you owe yourself peace. Someone raises their voice, don't match it. Let your stillness expose them, because when the dust settles, everyone remembers who stayed composed, and in that moment, you become unforgettable. Not because you shouted, but because you didn't. Breath is a weapon. Before the outburst, there's a breath. Before the punch, before the panic, before the collapse, there's always a breath. But most don't take it. They go straight from feeling to fire, from impulse to impact. That's not strength. That's slavery. The Stoic knows control begins with inhale. One breath, held, felt, owned. That second, between stimulus and strike, that's where power lives. The world will test you, push you, mock you, corner you. But if you can own that breath, you win before the war even begins. You slow the moment down, you let the wave rise and pass. No flinch, no fight, just space. Because the man who breathes doesn't break. Breath is not just air. It's authority, and the ones who master it, they don't just survive chaos, they outlast it. Move slow to move faster. Speed is a lie. They tell you to move fast, decide fast, react fast, but fast is fragile. Fast breaks, fast forgets, fast misses. The Stoic doesn't rush. He moves with intention, deliberate, measured, unshaken, because when the world runs blind, he walks with his eyes open. The archer doesn't loose the arrow in panic. He draws, he breathes, he waits. Release, one shot. Clean, precise. That's Stoic speed. Not reckless motion, but calculated impact. You want clarity? Slow down. You want power? Pause before you strike. Because motion isn't progress, noise isn't signal, and movement without direction is just a spiral. The Stoic doesn't waste steps, doesn't chase applause, doesn't prove urgency. He arrives when it matters, not first, not loudest, but right. And when the dust settles, he's the only one still standing. Not because he was fastest, but because he never tripped over the rush. Not everything deserves a response. Not every insult needs a reply. Not every fire needs your water. Some things burn out faster when left alone. But most people, they jump, they defend, they fight shadows, and lose their peace to ghosts. The Stoic doesn't answer noise, he evaluates. Is this worthy of my energy, my time, my mind? If the answer's no, he walks. Because silence isn't retreat, it's restraint. And in that restraint, there's power. You don't owe the world your opinion. You don't owe fools your reaction. You don't owe chaos your calm. Every response is a cost, and some debts are better left unpaid. Let them talk, let them twist, let them assume. The Stoic observes, calculates, chooses, and sometimes choosing nothing is the sharpest move of all. Because power isn't just what you say. It's what you refuse to say. And in that space where you could speak but don't, you become untouchable. Rituals that center the mind. The mind drifts. That's what it does. Pulled by noise, by headlines, by unfinished thoughts. Most get dragged, tired, distracted, busy, without direction. But the Stoic, he doesn't fight the storm, he anchors, he returns, again and again to what centers him. Small things, done with purpose, a morning breath before speaking, a cold splash to the face, one sentence written down in silence, not habits. Rituals. Rituals remind the mind who's in charge. They whisper, "This is who we are." While the world pulls you out, rituals pull you back in, back to stillness, back to self, back to control. Marcus Aurelius wrote before war, before meetings, before chaos, not to be wise but to be ready. Because the battle doesn't wait for you to feel calm. You bring your calm into it, and you build that calm by returning every day to the center. So find it. One moment, one action, repeat it. That's how you sharpen your silence. That's how you stay unmoved when the wind rises. Discipline isn't loud, it's quiet, and it repeats until even your storms become predictable. Walk away when needed. Sometimes leaving is strength, not because you're scared, but because you're done feeding what drains you. The Stoic doesn't argue forever. He doesn't beg chaos to be fair. He doesn't wait for things to change that never will. He reads the room, he reads the moment, and he walks. Not in anger, not in fear, in clarity. Because staying in what breaks you is not loyalty. It's self-abandonment. The world tells you to hold on, fight harder, stay longer. But the Stoic knows some battles are traps. They're designed to keep you reactive, entangled, small. Sometimes silence isn't enough. You need distance, you need space from noise to remember what your voice even sounds like. You need space from people to remember who you are without them. And walking away? That's not quitting. It's choosing peace over pride. It's choosing your sanity over their drama. It's choosing to keep building somewhere else. There's strength in enduring, but there's power in knowing when to stop. Let them think you lost. Let them talk. You're not here to win arguments. You're here to master yourself. And sometimes that means leaving before you become what you stayed too long to fix. Peace is a practice. No one is born calm. No one comes into this world knowing how to breathe through fire. Peace is earned, not once, not suddenly, but slowly, daily. The Stoic trains in silence long before the storm arrives, not to impress, not to perform, but because when chaos knocks, there's no time to start practicing. Calm is not a gift, it's a muscle. And like any muscle, if you don't train it, you lose it. So the Stoic does the work, when no one's looking, when there's no applause, when the world forgets him. Still, he shows up, to his breath, to his page, to his code, again and again and again. That's why when the chaos hits, he doesn't flinch, not because it's easy, but because it's familiar. Peace doesn't come from wishing, it comes from repetition. It comes from staying centered when the noise tempts you, from pausing when ego screams move, from letting go when everything says hold. This is not theory, it's training, and the ones who train are the ones who endure. Peace isn't a moment, it's a practice, and the Stoic, he never misses a rep. Stillness isn't found, it's built. So now you know, calm isn't luck, it's not born, it's not gifted to the chosen few, it's built. Brick by brick, choice by choice, day by quiet day, through restraint, through clarity, through walking away when it burns. The Stoic doesn't wait for peace to come, he becomes it. And in a world addicted to noise, his silence becomes a signal. When others rush, he slows. When others beg, he breathes. When others break, he holds. Because he knows the one who stays calm is the one who stays in control. Not just of the world, but of himself. And that's the kind of power no one can take. Not storms, not chaos, not even time. So if you want peace, don't look for it, train for it, and become unshakable.